Now, if there's one canceled game that I wish that I could just snap my fingers and make happen, it would definitely be The Last of Us Factions 2. So, during the development of The Last of Us Part 2, it became clear to Naughty Dog that what they were making with Factions mode was going to be too big to be ready in time for the release of The Last of Us 2, and they didn't want to push it out just for that. So they decided to split it off into its own game. And then we didn't really have much to say about it. We didn't see anything except for like one picture. But in the last couple of days, we found out that not only were the deep into the development of Factions 2, but they were almost done, 80%. So let's head over to Insider Gamer and Sam Sapoli, who writes, the director of the canceled Last of Us Online title recently opened up about how he was informed about the cancellation a day before the reveal. For those unaware, the Last of Us Online project, also known as Factions, was canceled in 2023 as Naughty Dog shifted its focus to single player titles. Former PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida thought it was great when he played it too. Now the director of the canceled title has provided some insight into what transpired. Last of Us Online was canceled after 7 years of development. During a new interview on the Lance E. Lee podcast from Tokyo via Kotaku, Last of Us Online director Vinit Agarwal shed some light on how the game was canceled. He first spoke about the boom in the gaming industry during COVID, noting that online games experienced a significant boost around 2020, which is when Sony, like all others, decided to put a lot of money into online gaming. This is how The Last of Us Online was able to secure its funding, and he stated that the game was doing really well internally, with the team developing it to almost 80% completion. It was very close to done. However, over the next couple of years, as people started returning to their offices, spending on online gaming dropped significantly, which led to studios to reduce their projects as well. He added that eventually the studio had to make a decision whether to go ahead with The Last of Us Online or make the next game that Neil Druckmann was directing, which basically led to them to pick the game, which was kind of the bread and butter of the studio, rather than this experimental game that I was working on, he added. The Last of Us Online director described it as a devastating moment and soul-crushing for him, as he had spent 7 years working on the title. Moreover, he revealed that even after serving as a director on the game, he learned The Last of Us was being canceled 24 hours before it was announced to the public. In other news, in a recent social media post, Neil Druckmann, the creator of The Last of Us, alluded to a little more in the pipeline. Additionally, Terminal War is a new shooter that is inspired by the canceled Last of Us Online project, and that's a great point. I want to go over to players.com, and they have a write-up about Terminal War. So, new shooter, Terminal War, inspired by the canceled Last of Us 2 factions. After the cancellation of The Last of Us Factions 2, which was intended to expand the multiplayer side of the franchise, many fans were left disappointed by the decision from Naughty Dog. Against this backdrop, indie studio Albatross Interactive has stepped in with its own take on the concept, unveiling a new shooter called Terminal War. While The Last of Us achieved cult status, its factions multiplayer mode never reached a broad audience. Still, it introduced a unique structure where players progress through up to 84 matches while maintaining the survival of their group. Terminal War builds on this foundation and attempts to occupy the now empty niche. The game retains core faction elements, including 4v4 team-based combat, intense firefights, and a constant scarcity of resources that encourages careful and tactical play. According to Albatross Interactive, the project is directly inspired by the canceled title from Naughty Dog, aiming to deliver an alternate experience. Players can expect 4v4 team battles, limited ammunition, and brutal finishing moves. Terminal War is set to launch in early access on Steam in the near future. So, I guess, not all bad news here. While it does suck that they were so close to finishing The Last of Us Factions 2, we're at least getting Terminal War, which, I mean, it's like a 30-second trailer, but it looks pretty sick. Hopefully, it'll be able to live up to what The Last of Us Factions 2 could have been. I also do find it a little bit surprising. I made a video about it on my main channel, Wiki and everything, but I really did expect that Sony would be interested in making an extraction shooter in The Last of Us world, and maybe they will at some point. And it doesn't have to be Naughty Dog; they can be involved, but another studio can outsource it. Because when I play games like Arc Raiders, I like really, really think about how great The Last of Us is, with how you're already going through collecting all the supplies, trying to survive the NPCs, and it would be even better to do that in a world where there are also other people and you have like the brutality of the factions game mode. I think it could really work. So I'll still hold out hope for that. I don't know. Maybe they're a little scarred by Marathon being just like, mediumly successful, not as successful as they probably hoped it would be. But what are your thoughts on The Last of Us Factions 2 nearly getting finished before being canceled altogether? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you subscribe. We have new videos coming out all the time here on the channel. Also, check out the main channel, which is where you get everything, where we cover video games in the form of video essays and video game reviews. Check out our sports channel, where you get sports, where we cover sports news, and our podcasting channel, Better Radio. Again, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.